I'm gonna say it, Northern Light season is the best time to come to Iceland. I know I've said in other videos, there's not a bad time to come to Iceland, all seasons are the best. That's true, but imagine yourself exploring Iceland, hiking a glacier, seeing a waterfall, walking on a black sand beach, and then getting to see the aurora dancing in the sky before you go to bed. Name something more spectacular than that. Iceland, you are amazing. Without fail, something that travelers ask me every single day is how to see the Northern Lights in Iceland. So that's exactly what we're talking about in this video. By the way, my name is Jeannie. I sold everything I owned, moved to Iceland in 2015, traveled all over this beautiful country, and now I want to help you plan the trip of your dreams. Let's get into it. The first and most important thing that goes into seeing the Northern Lights is the time of year that you visit. Yes, there are months that you cannot see the aurora in Iceland. Not possible, too bright outside. The best time to see the Northern Lights in Iceland is between mid-August through mid-April. And by that, I mean, those are the absolute extremes. In my personal opinion of just opening up my curtains and seeing them out my window, best months to see the aurora are September, October, and March. And I'll go into why that is a little bit later in this video. That means for those of you that want to come during the summer and see Iceland in all of its glory with the purple lupina and the green grass and the midnight sun, yes, you're gonna have a lovely trip, but you're not gonna be able to see the aurora. The sun is almost 24 hours of daylight, and so it's just not possible. It doesn't get dark enough, zero chance of seeing the aurora. And the first time that we usually see them is starting around mid to end August. That's when the daylight hours are shortening and it's actually getting dark enough in order to see them. The next factor to consider is the weather, specifically precipitation. The first thing that has to happen, by the way, is that the sun has to release a solar flare into the atmosphere, wrap around the earth, break off at the poles, and then you have the aurora dancing, right? The second thing that needs to line up is that the weather has to cooperate. Most importantly, cloud cover. Clouds are your enemy if you're trying to see the Northern Lights. And unfortunately in Iceland, we don't have the best weather. Clouds are frequent, rain is common, snow is common, and that all means that even if there was a solar flare, even if there are aurora dancing in the sky, if there are clouds, you won't be able to see it. And trust me, that has happened and it's frustrating. So in terms of weather, there's not a lot you can do, right? You can't control the weather, you can't control where you are, but there are two ways that you can actually see the aurora by yourself or with a tour, and I'll talk about each of those options in a minute and why you might want to go with one over the other. The next factor that goes into seeing the Northern Lights is the light pollution. And by that I mean the lights from cars, buildings, cities, street lights, all of that combined creates this pollution of light, and that's going to be your enemy in seeing the aurora. So what you want to do is that you want to get as far away from those sources as possible. This is going to allow for the darkest environment in order for you to get out in the middle of nowhere and have the best chances of seeing the aurora with the visible eye. Now, as a caveat, I have seen the Northern Lights plenty of times in the city, from my house, walking out of a restaurant, whatever. It's possible, it is definitely possible. But the aurora strength shows up on a scale, and the higher the number, the brighter the lights are going to be. But if the number is lower, like around a 3 or a 4, you still have the chance to see them. That's even more important to remove yourself from the light pollution. There have been nights where the aurora has been rated like a 6, and it's definitely possible to see them out of the window of your hotel. Or, by the way, if you want to know the best places to view the Northern Lights, tips for taking photos, and trackers that I use to check the aurora strength, I wrote an entire blog post on how to do all of this. So for a complete guide to seeing the Northern Lights, head to the link in the description below. Okay, so now that you know the 3 most important things that factor into your ability to see the Northern Lights, there are 2 options for physically seeing them yourself. Number 1 is that you could do it yourself. Search for them yourself, drive yourself. Number 2 is joining a guided tour. Pros and cons to both, let me just lay it out for you. The first thing is if you want to see the aurora for yourself, the number 1 thing that you have to do is be on top of the aurora checkers. So again, I've listed my 3 best best options in a blog post on my website. Definitely head there. I have used all three or a combination of the three at various points in checking. I like a little bit of each from each of the websites. So if you're trying to find the aurora yourself, you're either going to be stationed somewhere, like at a hotel and you don't have a rental car, or ideally you have a rental car and you can easily hop in your car and just drive around to find a dark spot so that you can have the best chance to view them. If you're gonna go this route, just know, dress extremely warm. I mean, head to toe, and maybe even covering your face. Warmth is so important, wind resistant layers, all of the things, because you are going to be standing in one place, or you're gonna be outside, or you're not like going on a hike and it's dark and it's cold and it's windy. And so being prepared with the right outdoor equipment, super important. Also, you have to be patient. The aurora do not show up on command. In fact, they don't even show up at the same time every night. And that can be super frustrating because if you're trying to factor it into your day, you can't say, okay, and then at 8:30, we're gonna see the northern lights and then we're gonna go to bed at 9. I mean, I've seen the aurora come out at 7 p.m. and I've seen them come out at 1 a.m. So when they actually show up is totally random and up to Mother Nature herself. And again, just having these trackers pulled up on your phone so that you can keep refreshing and counting down by the minute of when they should arrive, that's gonna be your best bet. Your next option is going to be to join a tour. Pros and cons to this as well. Con, expensive, you're with a group of people, you have to go to the location that they choose, but the pros are they're going to drive you right there. They're going to probably track where the cloud cover isn't around Iceland, and they can drive to various locations. So you don't have to lift a finger. You don't have to do anything. They're probably gonna hand you a cup of hot chocolate even on the way. Possibly that they'll include Northern Lights photos for you, so you don't even have to worry about how to photograph them. This is definitely a convenient option for a lot of people. One really important factor if you're thinking about booking a tour is, like I said, with the weather and the cloud cover and all of those crazy things that could affect the actual aurora showing up, is you're not always guaranteed to see it. So for example, for the person that only schedules one night in Reykjavik, which is where the Northern Lights tours depart from, and then you're leaving for the rest of your trip to head around the country, if you only have that one night in Reykjavik and you have the Northern Lights tour booked on that night and the clouds are prohibiting, or like it's raining or whatever, and the Northern Lights tour gets canceled, you won't get to see them. I mean, of course, they'll give you a refund. If they aren't able to run the tour, they're really good about that. What they would prefer to do is offer you to go the next night. So for those people that are staying multiple nights in one location, then that's kind of a nice thing as well, because now you have the option again to try again the next night. So there's no right or wrong, of course, pros and cons to each. But one thing I wanted to note is that whether you're do-it-yourself finding the lights or you're joining a tour, one thing that you should always do, always, if you're traveling between mid-August and mid-April, is just look outside. Just try. I have been like at a hotel, nearly asleep, it's 11:30, I'm tired, I'm giving up, and then all of a sudden you peek outside and you see the flicker of like the start of the lights. I'm telling you, adrenaline kicks in, you get out of bed, get all your stuff on, go outside, it's all gonna be worth it. You just have to try. You have to keep trying, you have to keep looking, even if you're at your hotel, even if you're in the city, always peek out your window. Always track the trackers. Always try to see the lights. Trust me, your life will be changed forever. It's the most amazing thing. Alrighty, my friends, I sincerely wish you the best of luck in aurora hunting. I think it's just one of my favorite things that I've ever experienced. So chances are, if you're trying to see the Northern Lights in Iceland, you're coming during the winter-ish season. So make sure to check out my winter playlist, all the things you need to know about safe travel in Iceland during the winter. I'll see you in the next video, but until then, happy planning.